we are going ahead further down and establishing, raising funds. That's me. Thank you.
Can we just introduce quickly the companies and the names? Otherwise, we're going to spend rather a long time. Marcus? You're muted, Marcus.
Oh, okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, you're okay now.
Okay, hi. So I'm Marcus Broix, and I run a company called Trade with Europe. The company was set up by my wife, Marika, and myself after the Brexit vote. So obviously we didn't expect it like no one else, but when it happened, we thought, okay, it is what it is now, and not only we have to deal with it, but there will be demand by UK companies to carry on trading with Europe. So we formulated a few solutions for these companies and now offer them, which is basically for companies who sell services. We have a place of business for them in Düsseldorf, and we can also incorporate an EU company for them, and we can host it in terms of manage it for them, including all the accountancy and anything else that would need, like HR recruitment and so on. And we can offer the same in the Netherlands for companies that sell goods. We identified the Netherlands to be the best country as a, say, bridgehead into Europe to sell goods, and so we can offer complete e-commerce fulfillment, any kinds of logistics and warehousing, and also provide a place of business and incorporate your company in the EU. And we do other stuff like EU representation for your website in order to be in line with GDPR and so on and so on. So basically we have solutions that you can take off the shelf and then modify them accordingly to each company, and the offer counts for any company outside the EU, so it would be interesting for anybody outside the EU. And yeah, so it's basically Brexit solutions, hands-on solutions that we offer from A to Z. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, if we could make the introductions quick. Linda?
Hi everybody, my name is Linda Middleton-Jones. I'm the founder and managing director at International Trade Matters, a company based in the Southwest, but helping companies to trade internationally, from accessing new markets right through to compliance and authorizations, AEO, AE. I have another hat. I have a position at the Institute of Exports, where I am the chairman of the academic board. Thank you.
Hi, Chris. Chris Walker.
Hi everyone, I'm Chris Walker. I'm chair of the International Trade Policy Unit at the Federation of Small Businesses in the UK, representing 170,000 SME businesses. As a volunteer, I run my own business as well, which exports. It's an engineering business which coats things with diamond to make them hard and wear resistant, and we export to 22 different countries around the globe.
Thank you, Chris. Henry? Hello, Henry.
It's Humphrey. It's Humphrey, Customs Compliance Solutions, supporting companies in their compliance operations and also, especially with Brexit, understanding the routes to delivery into Europe. My time at the moment is mainly on how to export from the UK into the EU and support companies in ensuring that they're not paying local VAT and duty. So that's me.
Okay, thank you, Chris. Thank you, Henry. Param?
Morning, everyone. I'm Param Shah. I represent the Federation of Indian Chambers of Commerce and Industry, popularly known as FICCI. We are one of the oldest and the largest apex chamber of commerce back in India. We represent over 300,000 companies, ranging from startups to multinationals as well. We work exclusively with the businesses for their policy needs and are a voice for policy change for business and industry in India. I'm based out of the UK office and take care of the operations of FICCI here in the UK.
Thank you very much. Sam?
Well, good morning, everybody. Like Chris, I'm involved with the FSB. I'm the development manager for the local area, which is Gloucestershire and the west of England. The FSB is the biggest business representation group in Britain, mainly looking after, well, it's SMEs is our target, but we mainly look after the smaller micro businesses. But when you think that 89% of all businesses are in that field, you can see that we've got quite a big pool. We try and encourage our members to get involved in import and export. Not been easy, as you can imagine, in recent months, but very encouragingly yesterday, I hosted an event for the Southwest about Brexit preparation. And when I set it up, I told the two speakers, we might get like 15 people, have a nice round table. We had 90 people on the call, which makes me think that people are starting perhaps a bit late to really start thinking this thing's going to happen. So it was a very useful call. So that's me, Sam Holliday, FSB.
Thank you, Sam. Nick?
Hello, good morning all. I'm based in Kuala Lumpur, so we're 8 hours ahead of you. So it's nearly 1 o'clock for me right now. My company is called Eaton Square. We're an mergers and acquisitions and financing advisory group. We've got 24 offices around the world, of which 12 are in the US, 4 in Europe, 5 or 6 in Australia and New Zealand, and myself in Southeast Asia, and others in Hong Kong and China. We're all about raising venture capital and growth capital for companies on the go, as well as mergers and acquisitions advisory. Particular interest is in technology, healthcare, education, financial services, and food and agribusiness. So basically, wherever investment money goes, trade follows, or sometimes it's the other way around. So here I am. I look forward to the session. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. Chris Lau?
Hello everyone, I'm Chris Lau. I head up the inward investment team for Gloucestershire. I'm from GFS LEP, the public-private partnership, local enterprise partnership for Gloucestershire, looking to drive economic growth in the area. Particular sectors of interest for us in Gloucestershire is advanced engineering and manufacturing, cyber tech, agri-tech, and renewable energy. That's me, Chris Lau.
Thank you, Chris. Richard Lowe? Richard?
Hi there, I'm wearing 2 hats today. I'm an exporter of training and e-learning services to the Asia market for around 7 years, but I'm also wearing another hat, which is China Bureau, which is an organization that connects UK Southwest organizations with China and Hong Kong. My own work is more in the financial services and professional services sector. That's me, really. That's enough, I think.
Thank you, Richard. Sandra, last but not least.
Good morning from the US. It's a bit early here today, but I'm so excited to be here. I'm the CEO of a company called Personal Cities, which is a smart city company really focused on helping cities and companies accelerate their investments in technology and other social programs, helping cities really around the globe. I think the idea for my company is to help create bigger, bolder transformation. And that's an effort that I think we are now positioned perfectly to explore. Certainly across the international boundaries, we see many more opportunities. Thank you, Roger.
Thank you, well, finally, myself, I'm Roger McCrill and run a company called Sabre UK. We've been in business since 2007. We facilitate companies moving into India and China particularly, and help them from the start of their journey till they've completed their journey. So that's me. Right, shall we get on with some questions, I guess, and start looking at how we can, against this situation with the coronavirus and Brexit looming up, how has it affected the international trade and how may it help and possibly improve the opportunities for companies? So I guess against this background, What help in this environment might SMEs be seeking to develop international trade opportunities? And what initiatives are available in our region for SMEs considering or expanding their business into international trade? I wonder if Chris Walker, you'd like to start that one. And if you want to come in, please.
Yeah. So from an FSB perspective, we've recently done a survey called Destination Export Wealth within the last 2 years, and we see that there's a lot of occasional exporters, people who are not really proactive in exporting, but are looking to get an inquiry from overseas, and that starts them on their export journey. Unfortunately, many of them are not necessarily prepared to do that exporting journey or importing journey, because importing is also part of international trade, and they drop off after 1 or 2 years because they are not properly trained or don't have the experience of, for example, running distributors or agents and understanding what the agents and distributors do for them. I mean, export agents and distributors should be part of your extended sales force, essentially, and lots of businesses don't understand that they have to be included and have to be motivated and have to have lots of the things which you would afford to your own workforce. So what we want to do and what we're trying to strive to do is to make exporting and international trade part of the psyche of small businesses. Obviously, this isn't applicable to every business, but small businesses who think about international markets are generally more innovative and more successful and have better longevity. That's a well-known fact in, you know, across a lot of generally in industry. So the trade support which is necessary really is to educate business about how to set up for international trade, how to understand markets, and how to build a marketing plan as part of their business plan. And that means that businesses have to spend a little bit of time working on their business rather than in their business, and that's very challenging for micro SMEs and SME businesses. But we want to encourage businesses to think about international trade as part of their whole business. And the trade support, just answering briefly your question regarding trade support, because I could talk quite a long time about that. There is trade support available, and there's a variety of routes through both in the UK, through both the Department of International Trade, but there's a very strong network of advisors who are experienced and make a very good living out of advising businesses with tangible results, such as Linda's business, for example, across the country, who help businesses on their export journey.
Okay, thank you, Chris. Linda, do you want to just come in?
Yeah, thank you, Chris, for that mention. I would, you all hear me? I know my sound is a bit funny at times. Is that all right? Yes? Can somebody nod?
It's a bit breaking up, Linda.
Okay.
Linda, it's a bit better if you sit closer to your...
Okay, so I'm some personal now. I think in our aim to become a global Britain, it needs to have all hands to the deck. And I think that the DIT are doing a great job. They're out there and they're communicating, but equally smaller companies who are in the regions and helping companies, there is a whole range of different support. Chris has mentioned the FSB. There is also the chambers who are doing their bit. So I think when we pull together as a country and as a support for international trade, we can grow. And I just would encourage people to have a look at all avenues available to them across that whole range.
I think it's very Param, perhaps you'd like to come in as you're on the chamber side and offering opportunities.
Sure. So, of course, there has been a slowdown which is predicted between 13 to 32% in exports out of India at this point. MSMEs contribute to about 45% of the exports of the country. However, there has been change in the basket of exports out of India recently. If you look at the last few months, you've seen a steep rise in the exports of services as compared to goods itself that we've seen. The government of India also has reported that the Trade Promotion Council in India itself, for example, has reported 100% spike that they were registered in demand for essential commodities that various countries are looking for to import from India. Yes, of course, we would require a focused approach, and we back in India, we are working towards that as well. So, going forward, though, these are unprecedented times, and we are looking at this as an opportunity ourselves in the country. We would expect, like other countries, including China, including US and others, that we would have more impetus given to the export policy. We are working aggressively with a lot of countries to sign trade deals, if not agreements itself. So we would see a lot of traction coming from India on this.
Okay, thank you, Param. Chris Lau, any thoughts on what can be done in terms of helping SMEs focus and where the help is for in the region?
I think there would be two aspects. I mean, there are companies looking to export out of the region. Obviously, the Department of International Trade does a fantastic job. We in the region in Gloucestershire has a fantastic sort of growth hub network, which provides sort of advice and support to local SMEs. Some of the activities we're looking to do with DIT would be matchmaking services, more sort of meet the buyer events. It is, well, it's both easy and difficult. I mean, in the previous pre-COVID travel restriction world, trade shows, trade events tend to be the sort of go-to model in terms of meeting new buyers. With sort of lockdown, moving to the virtual world, there's much better global reach. It's much easier to meet new buyers that way. But it also makes sort of pitching new products, building new relationships much harder. So there's definitely a role in chambers, in growth hub networks with sort of trade support, just giving that boost, helping sort of build those bridges. So for the Southwest, DIT is organising a sort of Meet the Buyers event for the agri-tech sector. For the wider sort of Southwest Western Gateway region, we're looking to do similar events for the cyber sector, sort of boosting sort of relationships with sort of the Five Eyes and sort of target countries. So there's a lot that is happening, and sort of COVID has certainly sort of offered new opportunities as well as challenges.
And how does that help the SMEs in the region, in your opinion? Are they aware of what's going on in detail, do you think?
I think the lockdown has certainly opened their eyes, and I think Brexit sort of supply chain concerns have sort of forced them to look at opportunities. Lockdown has certainly, for companies which are very focused on the high street, they certainly have had to look at online, and selling online to other parts of the UK, selling worldwide is slightly different, and it does require a different skill set. But at the end of the day, if you're selling online, it isn't too different. There are definitely nuances, but with that change of business model, everyone's certainly looking online. But I do admit a lot of companies do need a lot of support, just cracking sort of IT challenges, the online marketing model. If you're used to that high street sort of customer to customer facing sort of relationship, there are challenges, but lots of big opportunities in this sort of interesting new world.
Okay, Sam, if we look at the if we look at the opportunities for SMEs and then we move on to what sort of target markets might we consider for those SMEs within the region?
Well, I was interested to hear what people have been saying. Chris, obviously I'm based in Gloucestershire as well, so I pick up a lot of what he's saying. But I think the one thing SMEs have needed in recent times is confidence. And I think because we're in this coronavirus awful situation, it's forced a lot of businesses to look at the core of their businesses and maybe concentrate on their domestic market and not take many risks. Because I must confess, I do get a bit frustrated sometimes when I hear politicians, local and national, talking about building back better, when a lot of SMEs are just worried about building back at all. You know, there's a lot that are really worried about the future. And so when you're in that situation, you can go either two ways. As Chris says, you could say, right, we're going to now look beyond our normal boundaries and try and sell into new markets, or you home in a little bit and concentrate on your local domestic market. And I have sensed a little bit of that. And I think it is confidence. It is confidence. And when I sat in on this Brexit call yesterday and I heard of some of the things that people were having to do to get ready for January the 1st, I thought, if you're a new exporter and you sat in on that, you'd go, no way, you'd pull away from it. And I think we've all got a role to play to try and encourage confidence that, you know, you can trade as easily in Bangkok and Berlin as you can in Birmingham and Barnsley. But it was always a tough ask, but I suspect it's a tougher ask now than it's been for a long time.
Okay, thanks. Richard, any comments from your point of view in terms of?
Well, there's a lot wrapped up in what everybody said. I agree with. When I started my export journey 7 years ago, we went on a trade mission, so it was very speculative. But I think the lessons that we learn, and there's certainly the lessons that I learned, is that as a newbie back then, was that I wish I'd done some research, some more detailed research. So I think to build people's confidence, we need to make sure that SMEs plan for the long term. It's not a quick fix export. It's not a short sales cycle. You have to plan for the long term. So I think we need to chunk everything down and make everything seem very manageable for SMEs and take things step by step. It takes years before you get your first contract, for example. But I think importantly, your point about where do we target, we've got to look at what we're doing in terms of our services and goods, and we've got to say, where is their demand? You know, where is there demand for our goods and services? And then look out, you know, and, you know, Chris mentioned about the DIT support, which has been excellent. I must say I've used the OMIS service. That's how I got my first customer, was by investing in some introductory services with DIT in market. So I think DIT are an excellent resource in terms of learning about, you know, what you're trying to achieve and helping you in country. They only go a certain distance, I think. You know, I think then you need more expertise as you go into a market, and that's where the likes of Marcus and others, Nicholas and people like that can help. So I think the important point is it's a long-term gain, and we need to help SMEs manage their journeys step by step. But the important thing right now is we've got a massive opportunity because the whole world has gone digital. And it's very easy. Chris has talked about, you know, the online meet the buyer events. There's also going to be virtual trade missions, I believe, coming up next year. So, you know, we've got a massive opportunity to connect people over this next year, even though we're in a pandemic. So I think now is an absolutely essential time to be thinking about export. And I echo the point that Chris was making also about, Chris Walker was making about spreading your risk. What we're learning is that actually having all your eggs in one basket is not a sensible idea. As the pandemic hit, where did I get more of my work? I got more of my work from Asia because they recovered quicker. So, you know, we've got to be thinking, let's spread the risk and let's help people who are potentially thinking about exporting think about that within their strategies. There's a lot there, but that's
yes, Chris.
I think Richard's absolutely right. If you're only into one market, for example, if you're a business operating in the aerospace sector, then when aerospace goes down, you're very exposed to the risks of the aerospace sector in a market-wise situation. And internationally, that's exactly the same. If you're subject to UK customers, that exposes you to the risk of the UK market having a recession or having localized conditions. So if you can spread your risk as a business and operate in more markets, the business I run, Diamond Hard Surfaces, has experienced exactly the same situation as Richard. Whilst the UK market during this pandemic has quietened down somewhat significantly, our export customers have continued to place orders with us, and that's managed to fuel our growth throughout this period of time. So that's one thing. And briefly, just quickly on the subject of support, SMEs need support to guide them through the process of understanding what it takes to export without making it too complicated, to make sure that they minimize the risks. And that has value. So generally you get what you pay for. So it is worthwhile investing in getting somebody to work as an export manager for your business, as an SME, in the early stages of your export journey, to guide you through that process so that you can learn and grow into different export markets. So it's something which bigger medium-sized businesses then can afford to have their own export manager or have their own exporting department even at a later stage. But at an early stage, when you're an SME, you can't afford to do that. So rely on external support.
Yeah, and that brings you back, I guess, Chris, to picking out the right support and the right experience. As Richard said, it's a long journey. The one thing I've noticed in business internationally, people are impatient. Impatience and patience in this situation into international trade is very critical. You need to be patient. You need to be in there for the medium to long term. It's not a short journey, is it?
No, you're investing at the early stage, and you want to make sure that has longevity, because it costs money, and that's why it's valuable. So you don't want an agent who works for you for a year and then gets turned off. Incidentally, just while we're on, it's great to hear from the audience about what their experience of support is and what they would like to see in terms of support, I think.
Yeah, we're getting a lot of chat lines in at the moment. We'll go through, and then we'll see if we can answer some of them as well. What sort of markets might we be suggesting, or what markets are open to SMEs and the opportunities that exist? If you look at India, for example, and China, both of them are looking for food and drink, for example. Both of them are looking for AI, for technologies that will move them forward. What do the panel think about the markets that we could encourage SMEs to look at? Perhaps Ram, you'd like to have a comment on that from the point of view?
I just want to add one more point to what Richard and Chris were saying. SMEs will need help in pivoting to reorient what they are doing, and in the sector of micro, small and medium enterprises, the problem what people are facing after the pandemic is that the micro enterprises have been serving a local market, which has been very stable for them with low margins. So many of them did not survive. And possibly somebody shuts down, a new entrepreneur startup will come and take its place because there is a local market. Similarly, the small enterprises, which are about $10 million kind of stuff, they are always depending on bank funding, because the major problem they face is late payments from the customers. Whereas the medium enterprises, they are sort of more stable and they are able to create the supply. But now the question is to come back to the demand levels. Now the government of India has done quite a bit. What they have done is they have first fixed the supply side by funding the banks to fund the enterprises, SME enterprises. And now the next steps have been taken as of last week, where the government is looking at the demand side. So they have gone into some kind of a micro niche areas, even a very small area where the government employees get some allowance called leave travel concession. So they have modified the use of that instead of traveling, because nobody will travel now, to purchase of goods. They're giving them vouchers to purchase. So demand side is being stoked now. In all this, what is happening is, notwithstanding whatever has happened for the last 8 months, there are certain areas where the demand is going to be there, where it's becoming critical in urban areas. One is the urban waste management, which is going to be an area where know-how is required. So medium enterprises are best suited for that. The other area in India is the aerospace engineering, where export is taking place, but not enough. So there have been specialized offers, incentives for setting up aerospace industries and aerospace parks there. And the third area is for cold chains. For long, India has been saying that we are the largest producer of fruits and vegetables, but 70% is rotting because there is no cold chain facilities, and also consumption is improved now. Earlier, the consumption of processed foods was low, but now it's gone up quite a bit. And post-pandemic, it is really shot up a great deal. So again, know-how is required. And here is where consultants, advisors, know providers, machinery providers from Europe, USA, China, Japan, they will play a great role in bringing in a new technology. And the consultants have to have a role also to prepare the industries in India to be in a position to accept the technology, absorb the technologies, and produce high quality goods, both for domestic consumption as well as exports.
Okay. Thank you, Ram. Sandra, I wonder if you'd like to sort of have a look at where you think the markets exist for SMEs. Any view
Yes.
as to what world markets may be an opportunity? The US is
Right.
one.
I think it's a huge opportunity, Roger. And my work with cities inspires me to understand that SMEs are really at the heart of a city operation. So their success is what's going to help us keep cities vibrant and attractive places to live and work. Some of the areas that I think are particularly useful for knowing your audience, knowing your competitive advantage, knowing, you know, what your service is that could actually complement someone else. Some of the skills, such as Ram just mentioned, are certainly top of mind. Anything cyber, anything digital. But I think more to the point, it's these local services, and especially, for example, the combination of your complementary skills as an SME with others of, you know, like-minded enterprises. I was listening to Ava, who does the translation services. You know, her company could maybe combine with the graphics design companies, digital design companies, content services. You know, if you're in the landscaping business, could you combine your services with those from in the real estate industry? I mean, I think there's tons of examples where SMEs need to sort of rethink what their market is and how they could expand it in this pandemic environment. The headline in the United States this morning, I'm in Washington, D.C., is that 1 in 100 Americans are positive for coronavirus. So this is higher than anything we've seen before in the United States. And I think it really marks an opportunity for people to look outward, for us to figure out where are the international opportunities, and how can we, you know, help each other. Really, it's about being in this together. I have one other recommendation though for SMEs internationally, and I think Roger, your meeting is making the point in spades. You know, we need to network in new ways. We need to find new partners, new coalitions. You know, I think it's the local partners that can help us deal with the barriers which several of you have pointed out. I mean, this is a long journey. It's not simple. Dealing with taxation, tariffs, import-export rules and laws and regulations. I mean, that is not simple stuff. But working together, I think this networking opportunity, you know, getting to know the chambers of commerce, to me, the boards of trade, the organizations like the Business Insights International Network, for example. I mean, those organizations introduce you to new people. And if if you're out there talking about what you do and what you need and how you can help others, I think that's a real new answer for how we're going to survive and thrive, perhaps, in this pandemic era.
Thank you very much, Sandra. Thank you. Nick, you're sitting there quietly in Malaysia. What do you see as business opportunities worldwide for international trade out of the UK and back into the UK?
But, well, since we had our rehearsal last week, there's been actually quite a major development here called the RECP, which is basically the creation of a new free trade zone. And actually, it was all being negotiated, should we say, rather behind the scenes. So when it was announced from Hanoi a few days ago, it was all rather a surprise, a very pleasant surprise to everybody, and a shock to the skeptics. So it involved China, involved Japan, Korea, all the ASEAN countries, and Australia and New Zealand. And the door is left open for India to join when it's ready. So it's going to create a massive free trading zone that looks like, in terms of population, far surpasses anything in Europe or NAFTA. So that's going to sort of create its own momentum. As far as Britain is concerned, the way I see it, I mean, obviously I'm in Malaysia most of the time, but my work and mindset is very regional. So with regard to Malaysia, Britain and Malaysia have historically had a great trading relationship, been very productive. There's never been any serious issues since the days when Mahathir had a few spats of the British last in the early 90s. But since then, trade has grown across the whole, in a very diverse way. There's always been a big defence component, across industries, services, and goods, it's very substantial. The way that the most official channels that I've seen have been the sort of the DTI or DIT events being organised by the British High Commission. But they used to hold those in abundance about 10 years ago, and they were kind of sector specific, and they're also region specific. So you might get electronics one day, and then you might get West Midlands Group coming the next week or whatever. They were kind of, they always held social events and whatever linked to them. But when I kind of looked at, the people that were attending these coming from the UK, it was very, a lot of them are sort of in the small to medium company segment, but these were not always attended by the key people from the companies. My observation was that there was, someone was sending his assistant because he couldn't be bothered to travel, for example. Also one wonders how well targeted the one-on-one meetings that they had. I thought they were sort of partially effective, but not terribly effective. And really, if anyone's going to make any mark in the Malaysian market, they've really got to do it by themselves and just use DTIs and the chambers of commerce and the local investment agencies and the local equals as part of their ecosystem, but don't depend on them. You've got to do the hard work yourself and create those relationships yourself. In the post-COVID era, obviously the different channels of doing that, they've changed, but the dynamics are the same. If you're going to, don't rely on a third party unless it's a highly paid consultant, very targeted and very knowledgeable about the industry. You've got to do it yourself. Just use these people to leverage on and get some help, but it's only part of the story. So does that answer the question? No?
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you very much. I guess that brings us to a point which is down towards question 4. So what trends do we see in developing people related for exporting? in this changing environment. Richard, you're on this sort of on that sort of scope. What's your view on that? How ready are people?
Obviously, I mean, the areas of training I'm focused in around management and sales and all that sort of area. So, but I do actually support in the banking sector people who are actually selling global financial trade products. So I do understand the sort of buyer-seller relationship. Just a couple of points I wanted to make from some of the things that other people have said. I think there's a great point that Sandra's made around partnerships. You can go it alone, like Nicholas is saying, or you can have a partner that you establish some sort of relationship with that can help you in market. And I think there is a really good opportunity there to partner with somebody who knows the market and who knows, for example, I've partnered with somebody in Hong Kong who knows China very well. I don't know mainland China well, but I obviously know Greater Bay Area. That's where my focus has been. So I think the point about partnerships is an excellent point, and a coalition of working together and collaborating. In answer to the question about what do people need in terms of skills and knowledge, I think the point about where could we be seeing opportunities, I'd look at it in another way and say, actually what we need to ask companies is, what is it that you do? What is it you know? What is unique about you? And where is that knowledge and those skills needed in a global market? So, for example, for me, I was already selling in the financial services sector, so I had the banking, sector experience. Hong Kong is naturally a financial hub, a financial center. Obviously, language is important. I don't speak Mandarin, but in Hong Kong, a lot of the bankers actually learn in English. And the third thing is don't forget supplies. And ironically, some of the work that I've been doing in Hong Kong has drawn a supplier relationship in India. So, ironically, I'm actually exporting, but I'm helping. I've been able to create a supplier relationship between India and China. So don't forget the importance of supply chain as well, and how that can also help you save cost, build other partnerships in your efforts to export your services as well. So that dynamic that's been brought up early in the conversation. So I think that in terms of what you need, there's a lot that you need to know, but I think the key thing is to start everybody on their journey is you do need the DIT advisor to challenge you, on what is it you're doing, what would you be trying to get out of exporting, but importantly, what have you got where there is a demand for that? Because there's no point in investing your time and energy in going out speculatively. I'd say, use a rifle, don't use a shotgun. Be targeted, be clear on why you're getting on a plane, be clear on who you're going to meet at the other end, and essentially make sure that you've got some appointments in the calendar and you don't waste your time. So the important point about Nicholas saying is you've got to put a lot of time and energy in yourself. You have to pick up the phone. You have to liaise with people. You have to drive these things if you're a small business. If you're a big enterprise, of course, you can pay somebody to do it. But I agree with Nicholas. We need to get the SME market moving. So yeah, we need to almost train them with the skills to be able to export and build relationships. So actually selling, building relationships, networking, cultural understanding, all of those sorts of aspects are incredibly important.
Absolutely. Okay. Marcus, you're sitting quietly over in Europe. I just wonder, what's your view, first of all, on international trade before we come down to Brexit?
Yeah. May I first say that I agree with a lot, if not everything, the speaker said before. So first of all, motivation is a very big thing. And if you're motivated, you will lead your company to success. And that's also the problem at the moment. So we have Corona fear, and Corona fear is currently overshadowing Brexit fear. And so I have some figures here for you. So the Institute of Government has reported that as late as October, 1/3 of small businesses were laboring under the illusion that the transition period would be extended beyond the 31st of December. So they can't, it's escapism basically. They can't imagine that on top of Corona, we have Brexit next year. Yes, it is hard, but I think we need to tell people it's not impossible, and they should, again, in line with what other speakers said before, they should be looking at concentrating not only on their domestic market, but they should, as Richard said, not aim with a shotgun, but aim with a rifle at other markets. So obviously we are offering services to trade in Europe, and therefore I would advise to trade in Europe because this is what I know. And I always advise for companies to go to the DIT and the local chambers for advice, because what they get there is pretty good, and it's also free. The set of tools that we supply are completely different, because the tools we supply are on the continent, and as I said, we can take people by the hand and offer them an existing structure for trade, and then they can adapt this to their needs if they like, and they can grow their business that way, and they always have people there to advise them on a foreign culture and the foreign market, which is very important. So I would advise them on maybe Germany and the Netherlands. I wouldn't dare to advise them on other countries because I'm not from that country. So we would use people with knowledge in that particular market or country. So to sum it up, in general, I think we have to motivate companies to export. That's the biggest, that's a great strategy for resilience. And they need to do it the right way. They really need to look at it thoroughly. They need to research, and they need to find the right partners before they start. Otherwise, they will be wasting a lot of money.
Okay, thank you, Marcus.
Yeah.
Thank you. So I think we're really
Roger, can I?
Yep.
I'm sorry, I have to just intervene because I'm afraid that things which are free tend to have no value, and there is value in developing export services. And so you have to understand that even if you're using services which are provided free, they're taking your time. So if I, for example, invest 2 hours in having a meeting with the ambassador or the overseas embassy in Norway, for example, that's 2 hours of my time, which I could be doing something else. In a small business, I could be looking at cash flow. So you have to put a value on this. It has to have a pain. It has a pain regardless of whether the provider is charging you or not. And small businesses have to take that into account, and they have to understand that they should go to the best place who will give them the best bang for the buck. And sometimes they'll have to pay rather than taking a free service.
Yeah, just to add to that, I totally agree. And I think the DIT or in our region, Business West, is doing a great job. And I don't think that's definitely no waste of time and also the FSB is doing a great job, even though obviously it does cost membership. It does, you have to pay for a membership. And I also think you should always listen to what they have to say, get maybe another set of information in also, and then make up your mind.
Linda, did you want to come in with some comment?
I would indeed. Thank you, Roger. You've read my mind. Thank you for all your comments. I feel very strongly about this, and there is a very strong message coming from our panel members that IT is the way in. I would really, really like to stand my ground as an independent international trade advisor with my company, with super specialists who I admire and respect for their years of qualifications and learning. There is more than one way in. It really is important to recognise that DIT are doing a fantastic job, but they cannot be everywhere. They cannot service the need that this country has at this time. We have to work together, and that is in mutual recognition of our qualifications and our experience across the board. We are all doing these separate pots. We need to work together. So I echo what Marcus is saying, you know, about going to different places and the hand holding. I go back to what Sandra said. It's not simple stuff. And what the DIT may be able to provide, this pot over here, but actually if it's taking somebody to AEO authorization, you need that extra support and the helping hands. So I hope I've not offended anybody, but I feel very, very strongly about that.
Thank you, Linda. Yeah, I mean, it's a combination, as you said. It's bringing together resources with the expertise to hold companies' hands when they start and to hold them as they go through the process to make sure they reach the end goal. Taran, do you want to just sort of comment on how India is supporting SMEs in the UK here with the opportunities that the Indian government are offering?
Sure. So there are definitely, as I said, trade assistance schemes that the government of India has. But again, as some of the speakers earlier said, collaboration is the key. We as FICCI collaborate extensively with the Ministry of Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises in India. Recently, we launched what is called the MSME Connect, platform, which essentially helps SMEs to find the right partners and also list their products and services free of cost. So if there are UK SMEs who are looking to collaborate or engage with Indian businesses, we do have a facility that we provide. Also, on some of the sectors that were mentioned earlier, advanced manufacturing, Ram did mention earlier about it. India has recently opened up the investments FDI route into advanced manufacturing, defense up to 49%, and are open to looking at new technologies on the defense, also on other sectors like financial services, healthcare, and others. So if there are SMEs that would have any of these innovations that could be scaled up in India, we would be more than happy to help. Coming back to the schemes and support that the government is currently providing given the pandemic, and that we need to live with this for a little longer than we expected. Most of the export promotion councils that exist in India, and these are product-specific export promotion councils, have gone virtual now. They have moved out from the brick and mortar system of working, but have gone to the virtual way of functioning. Most of these organizations, including FICCI, now have virtual platforms for SMEs to catalog and showcase their products as part of an exhibition. In December, we are ourselves starting a year-long exhibition for companies to showcase their products and also sell to the international audience. One key initiative that I would also want to share, and this is again some learnings from countries like China, is some of the states in India have now started what is called the one product, one district approach, wherein each district in India, which is part of a region, would now focus on a particular product that they would master and sell to the globe. And they would be marketing and selling it jointly. We hosted one such virtual event recently, and we are doing one more for the leather industry, for example, in India, because that is another area that exports quite extensively. So again, we need to think out of the box, think innovatively, and look at how do we support these SMEs going further.
Thank you, Ram.
Can I just also make a point about, don't forget that the equivalent DIT organizations exist in countries. So in Hong Kong, it's like Invest Hong Kong, Hong Kong Trade Development Council, people like that. So I think the other partnerships to establish when you're entering a market is to build relationships with those, because they also, it's almost like a handover between the DIT and in country. Is, once you kind of established where you want to go, you then need to work with the local, the local community, the local ecosystem, to find, to get more granular with your approach and to understand the culture, and also have somebody like the Nicholas, the Marcus, to help you steer through. So I just wanted to make that point, that remember there's DIT equivalents in other countries.
Right.
Roger, can I just come in there and add one point to what I spoke previously? Just to add to what Richard just said, that the DIT equivalents, the High Commission of India, for example, here in the UK and also in various other countries where they are present, run programs like the Access India program, which helps UK SMEs to and handhold them to get into the Indian markets. And any one of you, for example, who was helping companies to export internationally or go global, can register as a partner to the program at the High Commission of India. Your clients remain yours. It's just that the High Commission will help remove any regulatory hurdles that these companies would face when they enter into the country. As you know, that's a major challenge for SMEs, right? If you are entering a new market like India, which is a complex market to begin with. When I talk about India, I don't say we are one country. We are a United States of 27 states, sorry, that you have to deal with. And I think programs like these, not just by DIT, but also by the Government of India now in form of Access India, are something that would help, SMEs to go global faster.
Thank you, Param. Yep, that's an opportunity, as you say, for the UK companies to look at India in a different light.
Roger, may I make a comment?
Yes, by all means, please.
I just wanted to talk about a couple of things. It was so interesting to hear Linda talking about how passionately she feels about, the way importing, exporting, international trade is done. And I too feel very strongly about a couple things. One, Param was saying that we need collaboration, but we've been talking about collaboration since I entered the business world many years ago. We need new collaboration. I feel very strongly that people talk about PPPs and public-private partnerships. We need to move beyond that, in my opinion, and I feel very strongly that's the message for small and medium-sized enterprises. Frankly, I believe that we are in a convergence of crises. Beyond the pandemic, there's social and racial injustice raging around the world, income inequality, certainly global recession, perhaps on the horizon, of course, Brexit, and overarching all of that is the climate crisis. So I think the message for SMEs today, from my perspective in the United States, reaching out internationally, hopefully we can regain our leadership as a world partner with a new president. But I think the message for SMEs is to really find clarity about your business focus. It's amazing to me the number of businesses that don't have it. They don't really know what their product is, what the competitive advantage is, who their audience is, who the markets are. I mean, give us a break. Let's help them really understand clarity around their focus. I have a couple of examples, but rather than go into those examples, I would just say that to me, cities will not survive if the small and medium-sized enterprises do not survive. They will no longer be attractive places to live and work. So I'm really hoping that the people on this call that need advice will look to some of the experts on this call, of which I am not one, but that really understand the importing, exporting, the nuances of it. So I just wanted to make that point. I think we're in the middle of so many changes, and we should just embrace the uncertainty, as hard as that may be. Thank you, Roger.
Thank you,
Can I
Simon.
just say a couple of things?
Can I
just say a couple of things? So just to follow on from what Sandra was saying, I totally agree that the inner city is dependent on the success of the SMEs. I mean, the restaurants and bars and small shops and everything are what make the community what it is. It's small businesses with obviously a well-run council and what have you above that. But all the services are pretty well all the services that people enjoy as a resident are going to be from small, medium companies. But they're actually not the kind who are going to be exporters or importers. They're very much location based. So I'm not quite sure how that sort of fits into the export forum. But anyway, I do agree with what Sandra said. The other is going back to linking businesses and and their export markets. Because I'm not in the international trade business myself, I don't quite know what DIT has done to actually facilitate. But someone meant, now that we are in the post-COVID era and everything's done online, what are they doing to make, to create kind of a marketplace or a matching service online that is effective and focused on a particular sector, a particular industry, a particular product, so that, if I'm an exporter of widgets from the UK and want to sell them to the Malaysian market, I can actually find my buyer through that DIT, B2B website. That'd be great if I could do that. It would save so much cost of travel and everything else. Could we, are they orientating themselves towards that model? Because that, to me, would be the most effective way they could help small business exporters.
Nicholas, there is an online facility in export.gov. I think they need to work on it, but it's most of the opportunities there that I can see are directed from other websites and major oriented towards larger businesses who are tendering for large contracts in construction and so on and so forth. So that's a gap that does need to be filled.
Okay.
Yeah,
So there is work to be done. Chris
Lau, would you like to just bring out what's being offered in Gloucestershire from the point of view of SMEs and encouraging them to grow in the region?
Sure, absolutely. So I think most of our discussions early on was about sort of UK SMEs looking abroad. There's a fantastic opportunity within the UK as well, particularly in Gloucestershire, for foreign SMEs that are looking to export to the UK. Obviously, I think there were very good points raised just now about sort of knowing the local market, and once you've identified UK is somewhere you would want to look at, we in Gloucestershire provide sort of free support to companies who are looking to come in. We help introduce them to partners, if they're looking at R&D, partnerships with the local universities, take on staff. We do all of that sort of free of charge again. I think Gloucestershire's quite interesting. It's not the typical place you think of if you're foreign from the UK. You typically think about London, etc. There's a lot of ingenuity. There's a lot of exciting things that happen in Gloucestershire. GCHQ, for example, employs over 11,000 people directly. We're the leading. We have a leading expertise in aerospace. Most of the landing gears around the world, Boeing, Airbus, are all made in Gloucestershire. Engine parts in Gloucestershire or nearby South Gloucestershire in Bristol area. In the agri-tech area, we're making absolute strides. There's a lot of digital farm, that's new technology that's being test-trialed at Royal Agricultural University. We've got a fantastic incubator at Farm 491, the UK's only dedicated agri-tech incubator. So there's a lot of opportunities outside, but obviously for companies foreign to the UK, Gloucestershire's often a place that people overlook. Obviously, it's a lovely place with very great transport. We're closely linked to the M4, M5 corridor, fantastic access across the UK. But most importantly, it's got fantastic quality of life. And if in a lockdown world, there's no better place to being locked in in places like Cheltenham or in the Cotswolds.
Okay, thank you.
The main point is we provide. Sorry, Roger. Go on.
Yeah, thank you, Chris. I think we should devote some time actually to the Brexit situation, I think, as well. We've obviously discussed the opportunities moving abroad and some items that we can come back to in a minute. Perhaps we can have a look at what we're talking about from a Brexit point of view and how SMEs need help in the short time we have left. Marcus, do you want to sort of head that one up to start with?
Yes, thank you. Yeah. To start with, can I present some figures again? That's very German. First of all, the KPMG has just published basically a case study saying that the growth of the UK in 2021 would be 4.4% without a deal. Compared with 10.1% if Britain wouldn't leave, and compared to 7.2% with a limited deal. Yeah. So this is substantial, and I think what I said earlier, that a lot of people aren't really aware what's going on regarding a Brexit deal. I can only support that view by the Institute of Government, because now we obviously have a surge in requests by people just before the Brexit, but from the questions they ask, we can tell that no one really has a clue what to do. So the normal questions that are asked are, for instance, can I have an EU presence? And we say yes. And they think a EU presence is nothing else but a virtual office somewhere in the EU, but it isn't. An EU presence comprises of this virtual office, or basically a place of business, plus incorporation of your company. So you're expected to kind of replicate what you do in the UK. Yeah, and in order to carry on selling in Europe, at least in most cases, you would need this in order to, for instance, collect monies in these jurisdictions, and then you have to pay tax for it. For this, you need to have a legal entity. You would need it for legal reasons, for compliance reasons. For instance, you need, if you sell financial services, you need a financial passport. If you sell medical equipment, you need a CE marking, and therefore you need a presence in the EU. There are various reasons why you would need one. The majority of businesses actually do need one, but they're not aware of this. So I think, first of all, there needs to be a campaign to inform people correctly what they would need.
Okay. Sam, do you want to come in on that one?
Yeah, I think I mentioned earlier that we held a Brexit event yesterday and about business preparation for it. And I think the reason we did it is that 12 months ago, every conversation had a Brexit connotation to it. Export, import, getting businesses ready, the politics behind it. But the last few months, I've really struggled to get anybody engaged. And I think it's important that, because people associate Brexit and with export. You can't get away from that. They start to think it's starting to look far too complicated, far too difficult. And that's when I said earlier that some businesses are looking inwards rather than outwards. And so until there's more confidence, I think through the Brexit process, then we may struggle to get the confidence we want to see elsewhere. But there's been so many good points here about why we can feel confident. One of the MPs in the patch I cover used to be Liam Fox, used to be the Secretary of State for International Trade, and he told me that he was a Brexiteer, by the way, but wherever he went around the world, he sensed that British goods and British exports still mean something. And the first bit of advice he'd often say to people at businesses that are struggling to abroad, he says, put the Union Jack on. You'd be amazed what that still means in different countries. And I think there's certain simple things like that, and we need people like Eva as well. I mentioned her because there's still that language barrier. I heard it said once that the best gift that we ever gave to the world, apart from football and cricket, was the English language. But the reality is it's also been a curse because it's stopped us learning other languages because the rest of the world tries to speak it. And that has been an excuse for people not to go into different markets. So we do need our translators and our supporters. But there are reasons for confidence. And one final point, look at this call. We've got people here from India, from America, from Malaysia. You can do this now. You can have that initial conversation without jumping on a plane like you might have had to do in the past. So the risk becomes less to sort of break into markets, but you do need the support. You need the support of all the growth hubs, the LEPs, the DTI, DIT, always get them mixed up. But you need these people, but then you need the people like Marcus's to come in and take you to the next level. And that's what I really believe. But I come back to the first point. It's about getting that confidence into the marketplace and actually remembering that it isn't just Brexit, because you may be sitting and thinking in you, well, what's it got to do with how will people trade with me? I talk to businesses that think, well, I don't want to get involved. Look at the mess with Brexit. What chance have I got in India or Australia or New Zealand? So we've got to get Brexit sorted. I think people will look further afield.
Sam, I think you're quite right about the Union Jack. In our dealings in China, it's quite interesting that British goods are sought after, and British food is a key commodity that could actually be exported in quite large volume from this region. It's going along with the Union Jack is a very good selling point.
Roger, can I?
Yeah, please.
Our FSB figures show that around 40% of exporting businesses are actually exclusively exporting to Europe. And we know through our discussions with UK government that there's a reluctance to be clear about what the situation is. The situation is there's a kind of expectation, I believe, by the average person and business owners that a deal means that nothing will change. Let's be clear that on the 1st of January next year, as far as exporting to EU is concerned, everything will change. In other words, the EU will become a third country as far as that is concerned. So every business who currently exports to Europe will need to prepare for Brexit for the 1st of January as if they're now exporting to a third country, as if they're exporting to Europe, to the US, to India, to China, and so the same things will need to be in place for Europe as they are for the rest of the places they're exporting to. As far as businesses which don't currently export, the process will be just that they will have to look at their unique selling points and examine how the barriers to entry, the costs of entry, and look at Europe in the same way as other countries and bear in mind whether the proximity makes sense over and above other countries around the world.
Thank you very much, Simon. That's very true. Yes, it's just another nation to trade with, isn't it? Just another block.
Roger, can I just come in there and sort of totally support Chris? I'm advising many companies at the present time that no, they need to change all their contracts and change their delivery terms. I've got one company who is, they only trade £150,000 a year, but 40% of their trade is within to Europe. She is looking to actually, until I spoke to her, to ship on DDP basis into Europe. When I told her that she needed to actually register into each country she's going into and be fiscally represented or have an entity, etc., she would lose her business. She needs to change the DAP terms because she cannot afford to actually trade with Europe on anything other than DAP or FCA or ex-works terms.
Mm-hmm.
She is absolutely going through hell at the moment because all her pricing for next year is all set. She's already committed to contracts to deliver goods. She's looking at losing, she's got one shipment going to Sweden where she's quoted on a DDP basis. she's not registered in Sweden, she cannot get her VAT back she's paid. So 25% of her order will be paid, which she will not be able to reclaim, except maybe through Directive 13th of the VAT, European VAT rules. That could take up a year to 18 months to get that money back. I think there's many, many companies out there who absolutely are sitting there thinking the Frost-Barnier negotiations will change the total picture. Chris is totally right, it won't. I am very, very concerned with, and I despair when I see some of the figures that the government is banding around, that 60 to 80% of UK businesses are prepared for Europe, prepared for next year. They're not. It's a total misnomer. And until Gove actually understands that there is going to be a problem for SMEs, I am worried for UK business for the first 6 months of next year. Totally worried. And sorry.
Sorry, Humphrey, I didn't want to interrupt you there. I thought you were finished.
You go, Marcus.
Okay, thank you. I can absolutely support what you just said. That's my experience also. People expect the difference between a no deal and a deal will be like black and white, but as Humphrey and Chris already said, it won't. So the best we might expect of a deal is that there might be a few lower tariffs or tariffs on less products. I can imagine cars, there won't be tariffs on it if they strike a deal. However, there are a lot of other non-tariff barriers, and it will be substantially more difficult for SMEs to export. So the difference between a deal or a no deal isn't that great. Still, let's hope for a deal.
Just to come back, I was speaking, I'm working with a major UK charity, and he rang me yesterday and said, I have no idea how to fill in this form to actually get an XI number because we deliver goods to Northern Ireland. And he was absolutely panicking because he has to have it in by the 23rd of November to ensure that he's registered for TSS. He had no clue. And it's a major, major UK charity who supports a very vulnerable area of the communities. And he is extremely worried and just, no, really, I don't know how to fill this form in. It's, to us, it's very simple. To him, it was a major area. One of the questions was, have you got a customs broker? He didn't know. He didn't know we've got a customs broker because he's only selling in the UK market. But the UK market's different now because we have Northern Ireland. And so I've pushed him to TSS to ensure that he gets registered so he gets the free support from the government.
Sam, do you want to come back in at all or not?
Not especially, but I think that's absolutely right. That really brought it home to me. And I think I said to you at this event we did yesterday, the technical questions that were being asked absolutely dazzled me. And I thought, if that's the case for businesses that pretty much know what they're talking about, some of them seem to, some of them that are perhaps more on the fringes that only have limited dealings import and export might be surprised. And Humphrey was the first person to mention Northern Ireland. When it went into the difficulties of dealing with Northern Ireland, that's another level. So I really sympathise with businesses now, and it really struck me how close, as I was sitting listening to this event yesterday, how close January the 1st seemed. Because we're talking now about Christmas and the effect of coronavirus. A week after that, some of this is going to come into play, and I despair a bit really for some of the businesses. They're not ready.
Do you think there's anything we could do to get a further message out? I mean, there's lots of information going on. It does seem to be a little bit biased that everyone's prepared in some respects, but it's not.
I think it's one of the areas is that people need to really have a basic SWOT analysis of what their business is, what are their, how they're moving goods into Europe, how they're being paid for those goods. Are they using a distributor? One company is using a distributor in France who takes orders on behalf of customers across Europe. but the French company, who is actually the distributor, doesn't want to be involved in any of the customs clearance or declarations or be the entity at all. So this company is sort of saying, how do I move my goods in the future? How am I going to now set up a new agreement with the distributor to actually ship goods into Europe? And when you're talking about Europe, we're talking Cyprus as well. So this French company is not going to have an entity in Cyprus. So therefore, how do you invoice? No, basics of life, of actually getting revenue into the company. They are coming to me and saying, I can give them a program and saying, you need to move to change your terms, change your contract, or our contract's already been signed for the orders next year. Help. No, what do we do? We have to go back to them and change the contracts and possibly lose an order.
Roger, can I come in please on this? I think that what Humphrey just said illustrates the whole raft of things and reinforces what Sam was saying about the course the webinar yesterday and how prepared our companies are. It's absolutely imperative that we take advice where it is. I mean, Humph has a fabulous background in compliance. And you know, he's well worth it listening to and taking cognizance of that fact. And I think we find our experts in our panel today across the board and getting ready for this profound thing, the context in which international trade is taking place or about to take place is really, really important. So it's about recognizing all of the providers of advice, but equally as providers, working out what companies need help with, that you know, the hand holding and whatever. And I am sure that charity manager, whatever he was, you know, was so relieved to speak to you because you've solved his problem. And that's what we're about, solving the problems, you know, across the board. So I'd just like to endorse what Humph is doing.
Thank you, Linda. Obviously, Brexit's going to be a very high risk for businesses in the country. And yes, it leads us to a big question mark, doesn't it? Well, we're nearly at the end of the session. The last point really is what key factors do we want to leave from this session that we can pass on to SMEs? I think there were many very, very good points brought up in terms of international trade, creating relationships, partnerships, patience, making sure we understand the cultural situation, the motivation that we have to export and whether our product is exportable, and making sure that we're looking at the right markets for that product, and research the market and make sure we have a clear understanding of where we want to position ourselves. And of course, the final point, I guess, is what's the unique selling point of any business? And do people in the countries that we're looking at want that particular situation? What's your views? Do you think we should put a small paper together that we could just circulate to SMEs, maybe through the group here, on those key issues and try and give them some guidance? Is that something we might do? What's your views on that? Linda, you're on the screen.
I think it's useful for all of us to input into Roger and have that information on the society LinkedIn page. Certainly within their own networks, it would be a useful document. And if it encourages anybody to do something differently or collaborate or listen to, you know, engage with our membership organisations, that's got to be a good thing, Roger. So I would say yes.
Okay. Richard, any comment from you?
No, I agree. It's always good. I think actually what occurred to me just as you were summing up there is, you know, that we are a group, a network now. You know, we've met each other. I will certainly be aware of Marcus and Humphrey and people like that for people that I come across that I can signpost. So I think we've got to signpost people. And on the subject of signposting, I should have mentioned at the beginning that if anybody wants to think about, is interested in the China market, obviously, you're well aware of the China Bureau, which is a not-for-profit organisation for which we're trying to connect and encourage more UK businesses to look that way. It's a very low-cost membership, but we have regular networking events where you can cross-fertilize relationships with other people who are targeting that market as well, the Asia market. So I did want to sort of extend that, and we're going to be having some events coming up specifically about the China market. So we've got one in January around the Greater Bay Area, which is Hong Kong, obviously, Guangzhou and all of that. So I think it's an ongoing education, it's an ongoing partnership with us as well as an important partner. I think the other point to mention is as an outcome of this is surround yourself with people who've got the knowledge and skills to help you. There's a lot of people around this table here who can be a resource, and your success is dependent on other people's expertise, not just your own.
Thank you very much.
Roger?
Just one comment from me from the point of view, sorry Sandra, just one comment from me from the point of view of going forward. If any of your contacts is aware that companies are trading with Europe at the present time, they haven't traded outside of Europe, please ensure that they actually get a customs broker or somebody signed up to be able to do their import and export declarations for them. The Chamber has put in place a support team there to be able to actually do customs declarations, but they're running out of actual ability to actually take any more customers on. Dover at the beginning of the whole process said they needed 50,000 custom brokers in place by January the 1st. We're at 22,000. We are that far away from having enough people in place to actually do customs declarations. If you don't have a customs declaration, you will not be able to export your goods. You will not be able to import your goods. So please ensure that everybody is aware of that and get a broker in place if you import and export. And it won't change with any rules which Frost and Barnier have. You need this now. You need it 2 years ago, but you need it now.
Thank you for that advice, yes. Sandra.
Yeah, I just have a closing comment. First of all, I love your list, Roger. I think you did a great job of summarizing some of the key points this morning. I also think a paper that sort of gives guidance, as Linda says, holding hands. I'd say that with mayors all the time. They need their hand held. And, giving some really useful sort of news you can use kind of guidance, I think would be very helpful. The final thing I wanted to mention is that I think because of the pandemic and a number of other crises that I mentioned, we have a trust deficit. We've lost trust in some of our government institutions, some of our companies, some of our countries. In some cases, we've lost trust with each other. So I think that that's maybe an overarching theme. As you know, Roger, I do these question storming sessions about rebuilding trust, but I think that's maybe at the core of where we could help each other, and certainly educating people about all of the avenues for importing and exporting. It does, because I'm not an expert in it, I'm overwhelmed by the, I guess, the honest and genuine difficulty and challenges associated with it. And if we can help people understand how to move through that journey, I think it would be really a useful outcome of this meeting and others to come. Thank you so much for including me.
Thank you, Sandra. Anyone else want to make a comment before we close? Well, if not, well, first of all, thank you very much for all of you joining the panel today. And I think it's been a very healthy discussion. I certainly look forward to keeping these relationships going. It's as Richard has said, we've introduced a network here, not only within the UK, but across the globe. So let's keep in touch in terms of working towards improving the export opportunities for companies, and particularly companies in the Southwest. Thank you to everybody for your participation. Much appreciated.